Hey y'all, Unbreakable here. So if y'all have been around here any length of time, you know that I talk about healing a lot on here. And I recently came across a coach who I really loved what she had to say. And so I thought it would be a bonus to bring her on and have a conversation. So I wanted to introduce you to Emma J. Walsh. Welcome.
Hey.
So we were talking beforehand, and as I said, I want us to just kind of get in a conversation about healing. You've got your website, you do relationship coaching, you've got a new ebook. We'll talk about that. But what have you found, I think, the hardest part about your healing journey? Let's talk with that, because I think a lot of us struggle with, oh, it's I'm out and all is wonderful, when in reality that's not the case.
Yeah, I think it's if I'm like the stuff that then comes up later on. Like I think it's been very much like, I was in that toxic relationship. I got out of that toxic relationship. Like I dealt and healed a lot of the stuff around the toxic relationship. And you think, oh, yeah, I've got this. Like I'm so much better, life's improving. And then it's like the deeper stuff, like the dark stuff starts to feel safe enough to come up. And I think that's probably been the hardest bit. And then that whole and I'm going to be honest here, like, especially perhaps being a coach as well, like, and someone in this space, is that you feel that because you've healed to this point, you should be upholding a standard to that point, which that's hard because you just
Mhm.
sit and think, oh, is it wrong to have that? And like when you have life scenarios and, things aren't always perfect. Like, don't get me wrong, like, I talk a lot about boundaries. I talk a lot about effective communication. Do I know how to do it? Yeah. Is there times that I'm still like, "Ah, didn't quite get that? Yeah. But I think that's where it's like, okay, don't shame yourself. That's like so normal. And it's that thing of like, we've healed it, we should be perfect at it. And I think that's probably sometimes been some of the hardest bit to let go of that perfection and just accept that actually, you know what, still a human. I'm still learning. And, we've had this stuff for, I mean, God, I didn't actually start doing any of my healing until I was probably 26. I'm 28 now, like on a conscious level,
Mhm.
on a conscious level. So, you probably start doing, I mean, I say 26, oh God, no, so it would be longer than that. But on a conscious level, for what you can remember, I think that's the thing. And it's like, oh, I've been doing it for this long, but you forget actually you had, say, for instance, 24 years of stuff
Mhm.
you've got to undo. And that's the bit I don't think anybody ever said to me. Like, give yourself kindness. You're undoing years and years of stuff, not just, oh, that relationship and that's
Mhm.
it. So it's definitely been the probably the perfectionism and that standard that you then have to uphold. And it's like, you know what, just let it go, let your shoulders, and like, so prior to becoming a relationship coach, I was a tractor driver, believe it or not. I used to drive tractors, and my partner now, he's got a family farm. And today I went and got in one of his tractors, and you think, I did that industry for 8 years. And I got back in the tractor today and had a half like panic attack because I was like, I can't do this. And it's like, it's just that steady of realization of going, you know what? You can do this. You're just a little bit rusty,
Mhm.
and then it's that cycle again. So I think it's that whole concept of, yeah, it's been hard to start the journey, and then it's hard to let go of the perfectionism definitely on that journey, because I'm sure you found it like you come into this space and everybody just expects you sometimes to have all the answers,
Mhm. Yeah,
and sometimes it just
absolutely.
comes down.
Absolutely. And I say it all the time, I am not, nor will I ever claim to be a mental health expert, a professional, a know-it-all. I don't have all the answers. And despite the fact that, maybe here's where I started and maybe here's where I'm at, the real raw open and honest of it is that I still have bad days. I still have stumbling blocks. I still have days where I am on my hands and knees. And I think, as I've said many times, like, I am my worst abuser. I am the hardest on myself. It's like, well, Unbreakable, you were doing so well. Why aren't you there? Why is this affecting you when it wasn't affecting you yesterday? Healing is, it's not a straight line.
No.
It's I was talking with somebody yesterday. I'm like, when you were little, did you ever take the pen and just like do this all over the paper and then you'd color in each of the little things? I remember doing that when I was little. Like, that's healing. Like, it's all over the place, right? There's
Yeah.
no step A, step B, step C. It doesn't work that way. And I find, even with myself, especially in the space that I'm in on the page, it's I struggle sometimes with going online and being like, hey, I'm having a bad day today, because I've put these own expectations on myself sometimes that, no, there's too many people depending on you. Like, there's too many people looking to you. And it's like, but I wouldn't be who I am if I didn't come on here and say, I'm having a really crappy day today, or I'm struggling with this. We forget. I think we honestly forget to give ourselves that grace, to just be gentle and understand. It took, for me, I've been out 6 years now. 6 years. It took me, so that would have made me 49. It took me 49 years to get where I was. The 6 years of being out is certainly not going to undo 49 years worth of toxic thinking and abuse and trauma and being raised by toxic and abusive parents. Like, it's not an overnight process, but I think we forget that.
Yeah. And I think, and this is something that I know we've discussed before, but I'm so big on it. Like, I don't get me wrong, I love social media. There is so many, like your account, there is, like Julian Trekkie,
Mhm,
get your shift together. Like,
mhm,
there is so many good accounts, but there's also so many negative accounts that aren't properly informed. And I personally feel that that adds a lot of shame around it.
mhm,
And,
mhm,
like manifesting, like, don't get me wrong, like, yeah, there's a science behind it, and there is, but to be saying to people, manifest your soulmate or manifest this and manifest that. And I just think that adds so much shame to people's healing journeys of, well, they're here. Am I here? Because, no one sits there and says, oh, right, put two people together. Now tell us about your healing journey. Everyone will have two different factors on their healing journey. For my healing journey, I spent the first 3 years of it sitting in a tractor cab alone with my own thoughts.
yeah,
For you, you'd perhaps been very different. And that's the thing, we've all got different factors. Some people are trying to heal while still in that household, or they have children. And this is why I think it's so important to never ever compare, because I think that's what we've all done at one stage, is compare ourselves. And like, comparing my healing journey, your healing journey, someone else's healing journey, because we've all got different factors to how it all evolved. And, like, some people have invested in different types of therapy to move their system along. Like, for me, I think I was lucky in the terms of I healed so much, and then I met my partner who, we then did a lot of work together in our own healing. So of course that then supported that. Some people
mhm,
will, have to practice the things that you're healing in order to get that healing journey along the road, don't you? So there's no point doing all this work on yourself and then never stepping into that practice zone, as I call it, and trying what you've learned. And if it didn't quite work, or you find yourself struggling, approaching it in a different way. But until you go into that zone, you don't. And some people feel, like, I think we've all done it. And that's sometimes when we go back, like, we feel that we're strong, we're independent now, like, we've got this shit, we're not going to let them put us down. And we go back because they promised us that they are different people. And yes, like, I think from my own perspective, like, my ex we had a long separation period, and he'd come back in telling me that he's learned about attachment styles and triggers, and I'm thinking, oh, heaven, this is like, this person has actually done the work I wanted them to do. And by that point, it was like, you know what, I've started to learn my worth. So I was then able to go back in and go, I can see these red flags, but without going back in, I wouldn't have been able to see that practice again. So it's hard, I think, in healing, because no one discusses those sorts of points. No one discusses the shame. People get shut down instead of allowed to make mistakes. It's like we're not allowed to make mistakes. We're not allowed to go back and try again without it being, well, why are you doing that? That's silly. Like, you know that this person's toxic for you. Yeah, but at the same time, we was in love with that person. We
Mm-hmm.
loved that person.
Mm-hmm.
And there is no shame in love, but at the same time, no one sits us down at school and goes, this is how a trauma bond works, and this is how gaslighting works, and this is how lies work, and this is what a healthy relationship looks like. No one tells us that. So how are
Mm-hmm.
we supposed to know without learning in our own way, in our own journey, and learning our bodies, like how we respond to something?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
no one says that to us. So I think
Yeah.
that level of shame just holds people down so much, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think you
Well,
probably felt that.
I want to go back to something you said. Your ex, had come back and said, "Oh, I'm trauma informed now." What I can share, and I don't know that I've talked about it that much online. When I first got out, when I was going through the divorce, I just made the decision that I'm not going to date until my divorce is final. It was just a personal opinion. I knew I needed some time. I was still figuring out that I had been through abuse. So I just took a break from everything. Whereas in the past, because of my codependencies, I always had to be in the next relationship. But took a break when I finally started dating again, had just started scratching the surface on healing. So the people who came into my life sounded like they were trauma informed. Sounded like, said some of the right things. And it's like, oh, this is amazing. This is wonderful. And thankfully, it didn't take me that much time in those relationships to be like, you're lying to me. Like, you're playing off of my healing. You're playing off of my trauma. I think oftentimes I've heard it said so many times that I keep getting into the same type of relationship. Okay, there's a lot of people out there who will take advantage of survivors. There's a lot of people out there who will fake the front. Oh, yes. Oh, I'm a survivor too. And take advantage of someone who has just gotten out in their weakest of moments, who has not completely educated themselves and who has not gotten to a certain state in their healing where they catch on quick enough. Now, thankfully, again, like the first relationship I kind of got into, it was like 3 months. Took me 3 months. It was 3 months too long, but still, I got out in 3 months, right? We don't talk about, when we do, as you said, put yourself back into those situations. Are you healed enough? Because there is no, are you healed? Are you healed enough that you're trusting your judgment, that you're trusting your gut, that you're recognizing those red flags, calling them out sooner? Because that's where we all got into trouble, right? People say the right words. And people will say the right words in the trauma-informed space as well. They will use that against us. I'm dumbfounded. Thankfully, you got out, when he came back, and you're like, yeah, no, this just isn't quite making sense. But I think we get stuck in that cycle oftentimes where, oh, they play on it. Oh, but I'm a survivor too. Oh, okay. So me as a survivor, I'm going to feel empathy for you. I'm going to, fall right back into those same cycles of I'm going to give more and more of myself to you because you're a survivor and I know how that feels. we get stuck in this cycle.
Yeah, yeah. And that's the thing. And I think it goes as well, like, especially with those like narcissistic, toxic types, they don't just go down the route of being, I'm a survivor from a toxic relationship. It's like with my ex, it was very much, well, my mum died at 16 and you remind me of my mum. So, of course, with that empathy, and
Mm-hmm.
that's the thing, isn't it? And like, and I've been on I was with one guy who he wasn't a narcissist, but he had a very, very anxious attachment. And even like some of those elements, it was like I just said to him, this doesn't fit right for me now.
Mm-hmm.
And it was this whole route of, well, I don't want to be here anymore. I want to pass, basically kill myself. And it's like that's where it's like these are subtle guilt signs that
Mm-hmm.
even the nice people can have sometimes. And it's not just about because these elements go beyond toxic people, because whether we like it or not, there is going to be more toxic types than secure types, because toxic types have to bounce from one relationship to another, whereas the secure type is in that relationship, aren't they? And we have to still find these people, but at the same time is being able to acknowledge of, okay, like, sad that your mum passed away, but like I said to my ex, sad that your mum passed away, but you're now old enough to get help for that.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not here to heal you. You need to go and do that yourself.
Yes. Yes.
Like,
Isn't that how we get caught in these relationships, because we think we can help them?
yeah, yeah, and that's the thing. We then feel guilty. We then feel
Mm-hmm.
like we need to, like with my ex, it was very much like, oh, your mum passed away, and I know that probably was really traumatic for you, and you feel like you have to then overgive. You have to fill those gaps of where his mum did. Like, I was cooking for him, I was cleaning, I was doing his washing, and you just didn't think, like, you fill those gaps because ultimately, but the only gap you're filling is your own. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not filling any of mine. And I think that's so fundamental. We get into these relationships and we lose ourselves because we don't fill any of our own cup. Like, we
Yeah.
don't take a step back and go, all right, you know what, I'm going to check in with myself. How am I feeling about this relationship? Have I got those butterflies that are actually anxiety, not a
Mm-hmm.
calm nervous system? Because I think when I met Harry, my partner now, I used to think my relationship, there's no spark. There's no spark there. And it was like, actually, no, I just didn't have those nervous system butterflies, which no one tells you about. No one tells you that the non-sparky relationships
Mm-hmm.
are the ones you feel safe in.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I
Mm-hmm.
used to think, oh no, don't tell. And I think I had to really look, like, and this was something no one ever said, no one ever warned me of that element of knowing that you adore someone, knowing that you really like this person, but there's no spark. And that actually that's a good sign. And that this connection, there's more to it. I say this now and I mean it, like, value over desire. If someone desires you, they desire you sexually. They desire what you can give. Whereas when someone values you, they respect you. They
Mm-hmm.
give you that sense of safety. They want to hear your opinion. And I had to really take a step back and go, well, is this man giving me everything I wanted? He's given me consistency. He's always honest. He shows up. He makes time. And it was like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I need to sit with this and sit with, okay, why am I not? What's wrong with me? Not wrong with me, but where am I not feeling this? Like, kind of, and I had to sit with that. And it's being able to acknowledge that actually, because I think for years, I don't know if you remember, like, even in like Disney films and stuff like that, they'd show the princess or the woman getting those butterflies. And I think as a
Swoon.
society,
Yeah,
yeah,
swoon.
or
Yeah.
the chirpy birds,
Mm-hmm.
and we've been tuned by that sort of stuff to believe that butterflies mean
Mm-hmm.
love. It means chemistry, and it's not. It's our nervous system going, no, get out, leave.
I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing at what you're saying, because my honey, I've talked about it a little bit. I am in a relationship, healthiest relationship I've ever been in. I met my honey in March of 22, but we didn't start like dating until January of 23. And it was because it's like, oh, he just might be a little too boring for me. Like he's I don't know. I think maybe he's too clingy or no, it was respect, it was kindness, it was true empathy, it was consideration, and I didn't know what to do with those things. To
Yeah.
the extent that when we did officially start dating 2 years ago, it was like we're 3 years in now. It's like, okay, the shoe's got to still be dropping somewhere, right? Where is this shoe that's going to drop? No, I mean, it's open, honest communication about everything. This man and I have never had an argument. Never in 3 years had an argument because we talk everything out. We talk about everything. And if there's something that we disagree on, it's like, okay, well, how's that going to work now? Okay, this is where I'm at. This is where you're at. Where can we find our common ground or our middle ground? Or where can we just accept that, okay, this is going to be a difference of ours? I've never tried to change him. He's never tried to change me. We accept each other right where we're at. But there's been those moments over the last 3 years where it's like, okay, this is a little too calm. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know what calm is. Like, what do you mean we don't argue? What do you mean we talk about everything? What do you mean I feel safe? Like, these are all things that we're not used to coming out of these toxic relationships. And if we can't find that peace and that serenity within ourselves, we end up going right back into them. I want to talk about, I would love to hear you talk about something that I talk about all the time. I had to date myself for quite a
Yeah.
while. I had to date myself because I've said it before. I hated myself. I absolutely despised everything about myself. And so I had to find that time where, okay, I kind of like who I am now, or I kind of enjoy my company, or I'm kind of okay being alone. I don't have to have somebody there. Talk to me about the steps in like finding ourselves again.
First things first, I think like get your values, know your values, like because
Mhm.
and this is very common. Like I was one of those people. Like I bet if someone said to you when you first started your healing journey, what are your values? You would have gone, oh, yeah.
Mhm.
We've all been there. And I think values, and obviously the more that I've studied this, like values, when we can live in congruence. So what I mean by that is, so when we take actionable steps every day towards our top 5 core values, it's been proven that we will have more happiness and be more connected with
Mhm.
ourselves. And, that is now such a fundamental part of what I do. Like we look at your values because that is you. That's what's to you. And of course, as we grow and as we develop, like it's always important to revisit that. So go and look at your values. Like go and there's plenty of quizzes online. Like go and do your values and ask yourself, like, how can I have at least one action a day? And that might be something really small, like, you know, that aligns with my values for me. So for me, I was quite lucky in the element that because of my job, I used to spend 18 hours a day on my own anyway. But there was a time like like I think I remember it was probably like back in 2017, I got hit with quite a bad bout of depression. Like my parents had just divorced, my mum had had an affair, like I was basically my dad's carer, and I was still working on my own, and it was so consuming. I just got so physically ill. And I remember I literally stood in the middle of a yard one day and just had a full on breakdown. It was like there was no one home. I felt so lost. And it was very much for me coming back to my values. So I started to really look at what is it that I believed about my life? You
Mhm.
know, and what was it that I wanted? What were the things that I enjoyed? So go to your values. And if that feels too difficult, what is it you actually enjoy? What is it that is it? And if you can't sit and think, because sometimes, we can get so busy in life, it's like, what actually do we enjoy? So start small. Is it that you have a favorite cup of tea? Like a favorite cup of tea or a sweet treat every day that you love, like coming back to those things. Is it that you just love a bubbly bath or some fresh bed sheets? Like the things that sometimes when they touch your skin or that you can spend a moment with feel good. Like
Mm-hmm.
that allows you to start coming back to you. And then I think when you're then ready to go into your values, you can start stepping into the bigger things like the little hobbies and, so walking and stuff like that. I mean, walking, if you can, like every year now, I try and go for a hike, like a 3-day hike with my dog. Like, I've got a little cocker and well, they say the dog that you get in your 20s, he's a lifesaver. I got him at the start of my heartbreak and I wouldn't be here without him for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so we bugger off for 3 days every year and just go hiking. But in those 3 days, I don't take any headphones. You don't really get any signal. So you're with you. And ultimately, it's down to then your own perspective. Do you want to get curious about yourself or do you want to judge yourself?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you can look at actually what's coming up, if that's, oh, I hate myself. Well, why? Hear me, like I'm here to listen to you, like and sounds odd, but talking to yourself, like
Yes.
reminding yourself, what, I'm safe. That those I am safe, those three small words have such a huge impact on when you are in a state of panic. And I think that's the
Mm-hmm.
thing, like sometimes when we are alone, we're like, this is really threatening, this can feel really uncomfortable. So just reminding ourselves, you're safe. And coming back into that grounding of like, what can I see around me?
Yeah.
Can I see any immediate dangers? And coming back to that. So it's definitely, yeah, look at your values, find the things big and small that you enjoy for you in your day, whether that's food, a cup of tea, a walk, a
Mm-hmm.
special place, like anything like that, and incorporate it into your week. Like make a shift to incorporate that into your week. And as well, like I do a lot of gym, so I'm quite physically active. So, and the reason for me I enjoy doing that is because I have to think about what muscles I'm going to use in order to lift properly. And I think that's why so many people go to the gym. But if you're not into gym, like yoga, I started to do yoga. It's incredible,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely amazing for connecting with yourself. So it's about you. Your healing journey. So you, it doesn't matter what Kim Kardashian or anybody influencer wise is doing
Yeah.
it. It's got to
Yeah.
be for you for sure,
Yeah.
hasn't it? I think because that's the thing. If you don't, yes, it's okay not to love yourself. It's okay. It is totally okay. But at the same time, love the little things, love the
Yes.
flaws,
Yes.
love the, like I'm sure you've probably with the having too much empathy, I'm sure that now in your relationship is such a huge bonus
Mm-hmm.
because you can pick up on their emotional change and go, right, let's talk about this. And, when you can learn to love those parts as well, you start to have that all rounded, like, I'm not judging myself anymore. I'm loving myself in a way that's safe. And you create that safety within you so you're not looking for someone else to give it to you. And that's where I think the power is really, because you know that no matter what, they can be whatever they want to be. We
Mm-hmm.
can give ourselves that safety, so we're good. We're safe.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that is probably the hardest part that that I've struggled with, as well as what I see a lot of people struggling with, and that is figuring out who we are.
Yeah,
We were somebody's partner, wife, spouse, mother, child, whatever. We were this identity. And for me, I never knew who I was from childhood on. I was what they told me to be. Fit into the box and don't venture outside of that box. So that has been the hardest thing. That was the hardest thing is, and I'm still figuring it out, but what do I like? What color do I like? I didn't even know what kind of what color do I, what is my favorite color? You know, it does become so difficult to take that step back and just first of all be quiet, right?
yeah,
This thing, that doesn't happen often. Be quiet, and just try to listen and feel what it is. You talked about it, the feeling safe. My therapist is so good. She always tells me, put my hand wherever it is that my anxiety is acting up, because there's something going on. It's usually here or here. What is it that's causing this? Like, just being able to feel, okay, I
Yeah.
can feel this. I can control it, in that it's not going to overwhelm me and go completely out of control. And I can identify what it is that I'm feeling. I can identify what it is that's causing it, what's triggering it. And then I can dive into that and deal with that. Like, we don't know these things. In the relationship, we read, we read all these self-help. Oh God, I read so many self-help books when I was in the relationship. I bought so many avoid divorce classes and all of these things, trying to fix someone who is not fixable, rather than turning the focus on us, rather than turning the focus on myself. It's no wonder that when we get out, we have no clue who the hell we are. It's no wonder.
Because that's the thing. I think ultimately you can never change what someone else does, says, what they are, who they are. All you can ever do is change and control you.
Mm-hmm.
So and I think there is a beauty in being lost, and that's the thing, because not knowing who you are allows you to be anybody you want to be.
Yes.
And you have that control. Like, that is for you to own and you to embrace. And I think if you can embrace that, you know what? I'm just finding myself. Like, why not enjoy it?
Mm-hmm.
Allow yourself to enjoy that. Allow yourself to go, oh, that looks like a crack. I'll go and give that a go. Or that looks a good laugh. Why not try that? Or that herbal tea looks a bit different. We'll have some of that. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the thing. And it's like you say, like with the triggers, it's, and I think as you go along your healing journey, for sure, like something I've experienced myself lately is, in my past, I suffered a lot of sexual trauma, and I'm not afraid to admit that. And I think I used to think, oh, I've sorted that, healed that. I went to therapy at the time and dealt with that. And as I've got into a safe space in my relationship, I started to notice that although I know my partner's safe, although I know I can very easily say no, the minute he would touch me, I'd go stiff like a cardboard. And it started to then come up. The memories that I'd actually totally dissociated in and had buried for so many years because it had been dissociated were all like, oh, we're safe now. We can come to the surface. And that's the thing. You start to see more things that you didn't know were there. And that adds to your identity. That adds to that, oh, I did go through this. And I think that's the thing, like on healing journeys, because of the trauma, when it's that severe, just goes right. Our body's going, I can't handle this, so I need to do this. And if
Yeah.
I do this and shut it out, you're not going to remember. So
Yeah.
you're not going to be emotionally triggered. And the thing is, as we unfold, that we've got this safe little bubble, and it's going, right, well, that can go, we've healed that. That can also go, we healed that. And as we're pulling these things out, this trauma is just coming up and up
Mm-hmm.
and up. I firmly believe that our bodies will allow us to see the things that it feels ready and safe to approach.
Agree.
And that's the thing. It's like when you're here, when you are in that space, definitely do not shame yourself for it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
allow it to be there, because there is a lesson in here somewhere that needed to happen at some stage. And you always find that trauma comes to the surface when you've lost someone that you never thought you were going to lose.
Mm-hmm.
Like partners, family members that you think, oh, right, never going to lose them.
Yeah.
And it's like, once they leave, all the trauma that they caused you is like, hello, I'm here. Like, see me. And I think that's the thing. It adds to that identity that we were never allowed to have, like, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. We're gonna have to come back and do a whole talk on the sexual traumas and how that affects relationships, because I've been through some of the same things. Oh, that's
Yeah.
a whole nother topic of conversation. And like you, I'm in a safe very safe relationship, but boy, have a lot of things come up. I was molested as a child. I suffered sexual abuse from my most recent relationship. Like a whole lot of things have come up. So we're definitely going to have to schedule another chit chat where we could dive into some of those things because those are so common and things I don't think that we talk about enough. It's still such taboo to talk about sexual relationships or a healthy sexual relationship or sexual traumas. And I'm saying the S word, and Facebook will probably find me for this, but whatever. These are real. These are real
Yeah.
things that we go through, especially those of us who have suffered through some type of sexual trauma. I would love, before we kind of wrap this up, I would love for you to talk about your brand new ebook.
Thank you. So I'm super excited about this ebook. It is like I've launched it and I've got such an amazing response from it. So I through my own healing journey, and when I was in my own healing journey, I noticed so many times that I would try like online trends on how to do this, how to cut this trauma bond, and how to manifest this. And it was just like I would do these things in the way that they said, and I'd have the same result, and I'd still feel awful. So when I created this ebook, I wanted to create more than just a self-help book. I wanted to create something, one just feels like a conversation. So
Mm-hmm.
you can feel safe as the person reading it. And two, that actually breaks down these online trends that says, oh, do this, and actually why that's not going to work. So you're not blaming yourself as you're going, well, I tried that and it didn't work. And, because I don't want, it's not fair to blame yourself for something that someone else has advised you to
Right.
do.
Right.
So inside this ebook, we're not just talking about how we're breaking trauma bonds. Like we're actually getting to the psychology behind it. Like we don't just break a trauma bond, we don't burn it, we emotionally undo it because our brain's been wired. And of course,
Mm-hmm.
we have to do that. And I'm very honest inside this book about being consistent with that. And you're not going to get the result unless you're consistent.
Yes.
So inside this ebook, I've got activities to actually help you be consistent that you can use on a daily basis. I've got a values quiz in there so that you can click a link and go and find your values to start finding yourself. And actually understanding how a trauma bond affects your brain. Because I think that was one of the most, when someone explained to me how a trauma bond actually works in the terms of how it rewires our brain, and the same with gaslighting and manipulation, I stopped feeling so crazy. I stopped feeling like I was losing my marbles. So I wanted to give that back. And also that taking away that we should be over this in a week. Like, no, it takes, a good 21, 66 days to just rewire a standard brain who hasn't been through this much trauma like all the time. Like, so taking that element away of like, it needs to be done tomorrow. So for me, it's really fundamental that inside that ebook, you've got that one, the activities to help you undo a trauma bond and actually take back the power over your mindset, take back that control. Two, the honest journey of a healing journey, not what someone who's kind of done a little bit of it, who had a normal breakup and then goes, oh, I'm going to go down a trauma route. Like we're looking at the deeper stuff, like
Mm-hmm.
beneath that level, so that you can move on in a way that feels empowering, in a way that feels comforting and supportive for the knowledge that you have, so that actually you can go, right, I've been here, I've done this, I don't want to accept this again. This is how I'm going to keep moving forward, so that you can keep doing that. And I think the one thing I find so important with my ebook is that you're not just downloading a free ebook. Like you're coming into my world, you're coming into my space, you're getting my support alongside that. Because I know that you do these techniques and stuff keeps coming up and it can feel
Yes.
scary, it can feel overwhelming. So that's where it's like, you know what, like I'm here. I'm here with you every step of the way. So that, like I say, you can understand what you're experiencing on your journey is normal. It's
Mm-hmm.
not what some influencer thinks it should be. It's normal to you. And it's important that actually you are highlighting your own journey. And like I say, yes, the tools that are in that are the exact tools that I use to rebuild like my own confidence, my own identity. You know, undoing my own trauma bond, and I've used these with my clients. I know that they work, but ultimately, the reason why they're so good is so that you can twist and bend them as such to you
Yes.
and your journey. And that's so important to me. And I think that's what creates such a big mindset shift. And that's why that book is just so, I loved writing it. I got carried away writing it. But you know what? I thought, sod it. I'd rather give so much more information than not enough and give you an actual tool that you
Yeah.
can use for life. So it gives you lifelong stuff, not a quick fix. So we're not
Hmm.
here for a quick fix. We're here for a lifelong change.
It's and that says it perfectly. Healing is not just a quick fix.
No.
Healing is lifelong.
Yeah.
Healing will go on until we leave this earth. It's because there's just so much toxicity out there. There's so many people around us that don't understand the trauma space. Like we always have to be prepared, I guess. Is that what I want to say? I have to be comfortable enough in my healing that I can go into any situation and know that I'm going to be okay, regardless of whether there's a trigger, regardless of whether there's a narcissist there, regardless of whether there's a toxic person, whatever. I have to be comfortable enough to be able to go into that and know that I'm still safe. And that continues on for the rest of my life. It's always going to be that way. I have to constantly check in with myself and make sure, okay, Unbreakable, are you okay? How are you feeling? What are you feeling? Touch, smell, sight, sound, am I grounded? Am I right in the present moment? Am I living in the past right this moment? Is this bringing up something? I love that you say that it is a lifelong journey, because it is 100%.
Yeah.
It will never
Yeah.
stop. There is
And
no
that's the thing.
finish line.
If only there was, but no, there isn't. Because that's the thing it's all like you're evolving. Your
Mhm.
healing journey is going to evolve as you evolve.
Mhm.
And like you say, like yourself, your healing journey is so different. Now you're in a healthy relationship to what it was when you were just on your own doing it. So
It's a
it
whole different
evolved. And
world. I don't know. 3 years and I still don't know what I'm doing. No, I get it. I get it. Yeah.
but and it's not healing. And I think that's where it is important. A lot of people come into healing high on emotion and think, oh, that's it, right? It's a quick fix. I need to fix this emotion now. Like, no, no, no. Like, feel your pain,
Yeah.
sit in your pain, and
Yes.
because that's what's going to make you stronger. Like, if you can feel it, your body's going to start trusting you straight away that actually you are listening now.
Mhm.
Like, and a really good, have you got time if I just share a quick technique for
Of
everybody
course.
that's
Of
watching?
course.
So, a really good technique if you are feeling you're feeling any form of anxiety or anything like that can literally be one, just naming it, like you can give it a name, like for you. So anybody, like anxiety for me is like the funny bunnies. I've got the funny bunnies. Like, so for me, it's like, okay, I can feel that in my chest. I can feel that in my
Hmm.
throat, and I name it. Okay, I've got that feeling. And when you feel into it, and what I mean by this is just closing your eyes and really feeling into it and noticing that it's there, you'll notice it will start to go down. Like when you
Hmm.
sit with it, you'll notice it starts to go down. And for us, like our emotions are an energy. Like if you can remember this, our emotions are an energy. So when you notice that starting to go down, deep breathe. Like breathe deep into your belly. Like imagine that as you're breathing in, you're grabbing that energy, and as you're
Hmm.
breathing it out, you're letting it go. And just sit with that and really feel that until you feel that emotion completely gone.
Hmm.
Because then you're processing emotions now. You're not storing them anymore. You're letting them go. And with time and practice, you'll start to feel lighter. You're not going to feel so heavy. And that is such a fundamental thing to remember. Like just acknowledge it, like you say, acknowledge where you feel it, give
Hmm.
it a name, like for whatever's right for you, and just sit in that for a minute. And then when you feel it start to go down, just breathe through that, let that
Hmm.
out. And then you'll start to be able to see a bit clearer because our minds slow down when we are in heightened states of anxiety and stuff like that, our brain, it basically, our logical conscious brain switches off and our subconscious brain takes over, and basically it's like someone who's driving really erratically. They're not thinking straight, they're skipping every red light. Take in some deep breaths. Once you start taking in deep breaths, you're signaling to your body that you're taking in more oxygen. So therefore your brain, your logical brain, is going to start coming back in. So you're going to see things clearer. So just, like I say, name it, feel it, breathe it, and keep going. Right, and you'll be fine. Things will move.
My therapist is a PhD psychologist, and you just said exactly what she tells me. Same thing, exactly. Feel it, and what I've noticed in that, what you just described, is whatever it is that may be raising my anxiety, it's not as big anymore.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel as big anymore. And at that point, I'm able to then look at it and be like, oh, okay, figure it out, dissect it, take what I need, get rid of the rest. 100%. I completely support what you just said. 100%. Absolutely. Absolutely. Emma, we're going to wrap things up. I'm going to place you backstage. I'm going to say my goodbyes, and then I'll meet you backstage. Okay. Thank
All
you
right,
for being
thank you.
here.
Thank you so much. It has been amazing. And like I say, hopefully we can do another one and catch up again.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Hang tight for me. Y'all can find Emma at Emma J. Walsh, Relationship Coaching. Her ebook, I will be dropping it on the main for everybody to take a look at. Keep healing, y'all. Keep healing. There is no finish line. It is a journey. That's why we call it the healing journey. Y'all go be unbreakable.